If you've ever walked away silently, if you've ever stopped explaining yourself, if you've ever chosen peace over being understood, then what you're about to hear will make perfect sense. Because regret doesn't begin when you leave. It begins much later. Regret does not come when you leave. Most people believe regret happens instantly. They imagine tears, messages typed and deleted, sleepless nights right away. But that's not how the human mind works. At first, when you leave, they feel relief. Relief that the tension is gone. Relief that they don't have to explain themselves. Relief that they won. They tell themselves, "I needed space. It wasn't that serious. They'll be fine." And for a while, they actually believe it. This is not regret. This is emotional delay. The delay phase, very important. The brain protects itself from loss, so it postpones pain. Instead of regret, they fill their time. More scrolling, more noise, more people, more distractions. They replace depth with activity. But here's the truth. Distraction only works when something is still available and you're not. When your absence becomes permanent, the shift happens quietly. One day they reach for their phone, not to text you, but out of habit. And then they remember you're not there anymore, not emotionally, not mentally, not waiting. That's when something breaks. Because absence isn't painful at first. Permanence is. The exact moment regret begins. Regret begins when three things collide: memory, silence, time. They remember how you showed up. They notice you're not reacting anymore, and enough time has passed for ego to lose its grip. This is the moment they realize you didn't leave to teach a lesson. You left to protect yourself. And that realization changes everything. Why silence hurts more than words. Words invite arguments. Silence invites reflection. When you stop explaining, they are forced to explain themselves to themselves. They ask, "Did I do enough? Why didn't they fight harder? Why didn't I notice sooner?" And the worst question of all, what if I was the problem? That's when regret begins to grow roots. The mirror effect. Your silence becomes a mirror. They see how much you tolerated, how often you compromised, how easily they assumed you'd stay. And mirrors are uncomfortable because they don't accuse, they reveal. Ego starts losing power. Ego is loud in the beginning. It says, "They'll come back. They always do. I had the upper hand." But ego is weak against time. Every day you don't reach out, ego loses authority, and slowly, emotion takes control. That's when regret stops being theoretical and becomes personal. Why they miss you late? They don't miss you when they're distracted. They miss you when life becomes quiet. Late nights, empty rooms, unshared moments. They don't miss the arguments. They miss your understanding, your consistency, your emotional presence. Things they thought would never disappear. Regret is not always love. This is important. Sometimes they don't regret losing you. They regret losing comfort, access, validation, stability, and realizing that difference hurts because it exposes their emotional blindness. The guilt phase. Regret evolves into guilt. They replay moments, times they could have tried harder, messages they ignored, apologies they delayed, and guilt is heavy because it arrives with clarity. They see now what you were asking for then. Why they don't reach out, even with regret. This confuses many people. If they regret it, why don't they come back? Because regret doesn't remove fear. They fear rejection, accountability, facing their mistakes, and most of all, they fear discovering that you no longer want them. When they realize you've changed, the deepest regret comes when they sense your shift, not through words, through energy. You're calmer, less reactive, more distant, but grounded. You didn't harden, you healed, and that's when they understand. They lost access to the version of you that loved without limits. Why your growth triggers regret. Growth removes leverage. You no longer need closure, you no longer need validation, and nothing unsettles someone more than realizing they no longer matter the way they once did. That's when regret peaks. The final realization. Eventually they accept something painful. You didn't leave because you stopped caring. You left because you cared enough to stop abandoning yourself. And that truth stays with them. If you're silent right now and wondering if they feel it, understand this. Regret doesn't come when you walk away. It comes when they realize you're not coming back. Not because you're angry, not because you're bitter, but because you chose yourself. And that choice is the loudest message you'll ever send. Sometimes the most powerful closure is no closure at all.